The morning sun cast golden rays through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Grand Marquis Hotel in Manhattan, illuminating what was supposed to be the most important day of Benjamin Hayes' life. At 32, he had built a tech empire worth billions, transforming from a small-town dreamer into one of America's most eligible bachelors. Today, he would marry Catherine Walsh, the daughter of a prominent political family, in what the media had dubbed the wedding of the decade. Benjamin adjusted his platinum cufflinks for the third time, staring at his reflection in the ornate mirror of the presidential suite. His tailored Italian tuxedo fit perfectly, his dark hair was styled to perfection, and his blue eyes should have sparkled with joy. Instead, they held a strange emptiness that had been growing stronger with each passing day. "You look nervous, brother," said James Hayes, Benjamin's younger sibling and best man, as he entered the room carrying 2 glasses of champagne. Cold feet before the big moment. Benjamin accepted the glass, but didn't drink. Just thinking about everything that led to this moment. Sometimes I wonder if this is really what I want or what everyone expects me to want. James raised an eyebrow. Bit late for philosophical questions, don't you think? Catherine is perfect for you. Beautiful, intelligent, from a good family. Your marriage, will create one of the most powerful alliances in the country. Word merger hit Benjamin like a physical blow. That's exactly what this felt like, a business transaction, rather than a celebration of love. He had convinced himself that Catherine was the right choice because she fit perfectly into his world of Gallus, board meetings, and political connections. She was everything a man in his position should want in a wife. "Benjamin, darling, you look absolutely magnificent." Catherine Walsh glided into the room like a vision in her custom Vera Wang gown. Her blonde hair was swept into an elegant updo, and diamonds sparkled at her throat and ears. She was undeniably beautiful, but as she kissed his cheek, Benjamin felt nothing more than polite affection. "The photographer wants to take some pre-ceremony shots," she continued, smoothing an invisible wrinkle from her dress. "The editor from Luxury Weddings magazine is here, and we need to make sure everything looks perfect for the feature article." Benjamin nodded mechanically. Everything about this wedding had been planned and orchestrated for maximum media impact. Catherine had handled most of the arrangements with the efficiency of a corporate executive, which she essentially was. Their relationship had always been more like a partnership than a romance, as they made their way to the ballroom for photos. Benjamin's mind drifted back to his college days at Stanford. He remembered a different kind of love, one that had consumed him completely and left him breathless. But that was a lifetime ago. Before responsibilities and expectations had shaped him into the man he had become, the Grand Marquis ballroom had been transformed into a fairy tale setting. White roses and orchids adorned every surface, crystal chandeliers cast rainbow prisms across the room, and flowing white silk draped the walls. It was magnificent and cold, like a beautiful museum display. "Mr. Hayes, if you could stand here with your bride," the photographer directed, positioning them in front of an elaborate floral arch. "Perfect. Now, could you look at each other with love in your eyes?" Benjamin turned to Catherine, searching for that spark, that feeling of completeness he had once known. She smiled her practiced society smile, and he tried to mirror her expression. The camera clicked repeatedly, capturing what would appear to be moments of joy, but felt hollow to him. After the photo session, Benjamin excused himself to get some fresh air before the ceremony. He walked through the hotel's corridors, past elegantly dressed guests arriving for the event. Everyone seemed excited, chattering about the lavish celebration that awaited them. He found himself in a quiet alcove near the service entrance, where the wedding staff bustled about with final preparations. It was here, away from the glamour and spectacle, that he first spotted her. A woman in a black server's uniform was arranging glasses on a tray, her movements graceful despite the obvious weight of her burden. Her auburn hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and when she looked up to check something on her clipboard, Benjamin's world stopped. It was Rosalind Parker, his Rosalind, the woman who had been his everything during their college years, who had vanished from his life 8 years ago without explanation, leaving him heartbroken and confused. She was older now, her face showing the subtle lines of experience and perhaps hardship, but she was still the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. Her green eyes, once full of laughter and dreams, now held a weary sadness that made his chest tighten with pain. Benjamin stood frozen, watching her work. She moved, with quiet dignity, treating each task with care despite the menial nature of her job. This was not how he had ever imagined seeing her again. In his dreams, when he dared to have them, she had been successful and happy, not serving drinks at his wedding. Their eyes met across the corridor, and the tray in Rosalind's hands trembled. The recognition was instant and devastating. Her face went pale, and for a moment, she looked as if she might faint. "Benjamin," she whispered, his name barely audible. He moved toward her without conscious thought, drawn by an invisible force that had never truly weakened despite the years of separation. "Rosalind, I can't believe it's you." She set the tray down carefully, her hands shaking. "I didn't know this was your wedding. I mean, I knew Benjamin Hayes was getting married, but I never imagined it was you. There are so many Benjamin Hayes in the world, and you look so different now." He was different. Gone was the idealistic young man who had studied environmental engineering and dreamed of changing the world. In his place stood a billionaire in an expensive suit about to marry a woman he didn't love for reasons that had nothing to do with happiness. "You're working here," he said, and immediately regretted how that sounded. "I mean, I didn't expect to see you in Manhattan." "Life doesn't always go as planned," Rosalind replied quietly, glancing around nervously. "I should get back to work. This is your day, and I don't want to cause any problems." "Wait." Benjamin reached out, almost touching her arm before stopping himself. "We need to talk. There's so much I need to understand. Why did you disappear? Why didn't you return my calls? Or letters?" Tears began to form in Rosalind's eyes. "Benjamin, please. Not here, not now. You're about to get married. Your future is waiting for you in that ballroom." "My future," he repeated hollowly. "Rosalind, seeing you here, it's like waking up from a dream I didn't realize I was having. All these years I thought I had moved on, but standing here looking at you, I know I never did." She stepped back, shaking her head. "You can't say things like that, not today. Think about your bride. Think about all the people waiting for you." "I am thinking," Benjamin said intensely. "For the first time in years, I'm actually thinking. Clearly, Rosalind, what happened to us? What happened to our plans, our dreams?" Before she could answer, James appeared in the corridor. "Benjamin, there you are. Everyone's looking for you. The ceremony starts in 10 minutes, he glanced at Rosalind with polite dismissal. "Excuse me, miss, but we need to get the groom back to his wedding." Benjamin looked between his brother and Rosalind, feeling torn in two directions. His old life and his new life stood before him, and he had to choose which path to follow. "I'll find you after the reception," he told Rosalind quietly. "We will talk." As James led him away, Benjamin turned back once more to see Rosalind standing alone in the corridor, tears streaming down her face. In that moment, he realized that marrying Catherine would be the biggest mistake of his life, but he was trapped by expectations, contracts, and the weight of disappointing hundreds of guests. The next hour passed in a blur. Benjamin stood at the altar watching Catherine walk down the aisle to the sound of a string quartet. She looked radiant and confident, every inch the perfect society bride. The officiant began the ceremony. But Benjamin's mind kept drifting to the woman in the service corridor, whose reappearance had shattered his carefully constructed world. When the moment came to say his vows, Benjamin looked into Catherine's expectant face and saw, not love, but ambition. She wanted to be Mrs. Benjamin Hayes, the wife of a billionaire, more than she wanted to be his partner in life. The weight of his decision pressed down on him like a physical force. And as he opened his mouth to speak the words that would bind him to a loveless marriage, Benjamin finally understood what he had to do. The words died in Benjamin's throat as he stood at the altar, staring into Catherine's perfectly composed face. Around him, 300 of society's elite waited in hushed anticipation, their eyes fixed on what they believed would be the social event of the year. Benjamin could only think of green eyes filled with tears and a voice that had once whispered his name with love instead of shock. Benjamin, Catherine prompted softly, her smile never wavering even as confusion flickered. In her blue eyes, "Your vows, darling?" The officiant cleared his throat discreetly. Benjamin became aware of the expectant silence stretching across the ornate ballroom. His father, Robert Hayes, sat in the front row with a stern expression that clearly communicated his expectations. Catherine's parents beamed with satisfaction at the advantageous match their daughter had secured. But all Benjamin could see was Rosalind's face 8 years ago, radiant with love as they made promises under the oak tree behind their college dormitory. She had worn a simple sundress that day, her hair flowing free in the California breeze, and he had promised her forever with absolute certainty. Benjamin began, his voice cracking slightly. The assembled crowd leaned forward, thinking it was merely wedding day nerves. "I cannot do this." The gasps that erupted from the wedding guests sounded like a collective intake of breath before a scream. Catherine's bouquet trembled in her hands, and her perfect composure finally cracked.
What?
"Did you say?" she whispered, her voice barely audible over the growing murmur of shocked voices. Benjamin turned to face the crowd, his hand shaking as he removed the wedding ring from his jacket pocket and placed it gently in Catherine's palm. "I'm sorry," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I cannot marry you, Catherine. It wouldn't be fair to either of us." Chaos erupted in the ballroom. Catherine's mother stood up with a shriek of outrage, while his own father's face turned red with fury. James stepped forward, trying to salvage the situation. But Benjamin was already walking down the aisle, past the shocked faces of Manhattan's most powerful families. He didn't stop until he reached the service corridor where he had last seen Rosalind. She was gone, but another server pointed him toward the employee break room. Benjamin found her there, sitting alone at a small table with her head in her hands.
Ice.
"Rosalind," he said softly. She looked up, her eyes red from crying.
What are you
"Doing here? Shouldn't you be married by now?" "I couldn't go through with it," Benjamin said, sitting across from her. "Seeing you again made me realize I was about to make the biggest mistake of my life." "Benjamin, you can't destroy your future." "Because of me," Rosalind protested. "We're not the same people we were in college. Too much has changed. Have we changed that much?" he asked, studying her face. "Because when I looked at you earlier, I felt exactly the same as I did 8 years ago." "Tell me you didn't feel it too." Rosalind closed her eyes, a tear sliding down her cheek. "Of course I felt it. I've never stopped feeling it. But Benjamin, you don't understand what my life is like now. I'm not the carefree college student you remember." "Then tell me," he said urgently. "Help me understand what happened to us. Why did you disappear? I looked everywhere for you after graduation. Your roommate said you had moved away, but she wouldn't tell me where. Your phone was disconnected. Your email bounced back. Like you vanished from the earth." Rosalind was quiet for a long moment, gathering her courage. "I was pregnant," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. Benjamin felt as if the world had tilted off its axis. "Pregnant? With my child?" "Yes," she nodded, unable to meet his eyes. "I found out 3 weeks after graduation." "I was terrified, Benjamin. We were both so young, and you had just been accepted into that prestigious graduate program at MIT. You had your whole brilliant future ahead of you. Why didn't you tell me?" Benjamin's voice was raw with emotion. "Did you think I wouldn't want to know? Did you think I wouldn't want to help?" "I thought about it," Rosalind said, finally looking at him. "I started to call you so many times, but then I would remember all your plans, your dreams of changing the world with sustainable technology. I couldn't bear the thought of destroying your future." "So you destroyed ours instead," Benjamin said quietly, not accusingly, but with deep sadness. "I thought I was doing the right thing," Rosalind continued, tears flowing freely now. "My parents disowned me when they found out I was pregnant. They said I had brought shame on the family. I had nowhere to go, no money, and I was working 3 jobs just to pay for prenatal care." Benjamin reached across the table and took her hand. "Where is our child now?" "She's 7 years old," Rosalind whispered. "Her name is Emma, and she's the most beautiful, brilliant little girl you could imagine. She has your eyes and your curiosity about everything. The revelation hit Benjamin like a physical blow. He had a daughter. A 7-year-old daughter he had never met, never held, never read bedtime stories to. Where is she now? She's at the community center daycare. I work 3 jobs to support us, but it's never enough. We live in a tiny apartment in Queens, and Emma wears secondhand clothes, but she's happy. She's so smart, Benjamin. She's already reading at a high school level, and she builds these incredible structures with blocks and recycled materials. Benjamin's mind raced with images of the daughter he had never known existed. Does she know about me? I've told her. That her daddy is a very smart man who builds important things to help people, but that he lives far away, Rosalind said carefully. She asks about you sometimes, but I've tried not to give her false hope that you would ever come back into our lives. False hope? Benjamin stood up abruptly, pacing the small room. Rosalind, I would have given up everything for you and our child. Don't you understand that? All the money, all the success. None of it means anything without the people you love. You've accomplished so much, Rosalind protested. Your company's changing the world. You've created thousands of jobs, developed technologies that are helping fight climate change. If you had known about Emma, you might never have achieved any of that. And I would have been happier, Benjamin said firmly. Material success means nothing if you're empty inside. For 8 years, I've felt like something essential was missing from my life. Now I know what it was. It was you and Emma. Rosalind stood up slowly, wrapping her arms around herself. It's too late, Benjamin. Can't just waltz back into our lives and expect everything to be perfect. Emma and I have built a life together. It's not glamorous, but it's stable. She can't afford to have her heart broken if you decide this isn't what you really want. I need to meet her, Benjamin said urgently. I need to meet my daughter. Benjamin, Rosalind began, but he interrupted her. Please, I know I have no right to ask anything of you after what happened today, after the chaos I've created, but I need to see her. I need to try to be the father I should have been all along. Rosalind studied his face for a long moment, seeing the sincerity and desperation in his eyes. Finally, she nodded slowly. The community center closes at 6. I can pick her up and bring her to Central Park, but Benjamin, you have to understand that this doesn't mean we can just pick up where we left off. Too much has happened. Too much time has passed. I understand, Benjamin said, though his heart was racing with hope. I just want the chance to try. It's a chance to be part of her life. Part of your life, if you'll let me. As they left the hotel through the service entrance, Benjamin caught a glimpse of the chaos still unfolding in the ballroom. Security was trying to manage the departing guests, while photographers captured every moment of what would undoubtedly be called the scandal of the year. But Benjamin didn't care about any of that anymore. For the first time in 8 years, he was walking toward something that mattered more than business deals or social status. He was walking toward his family, too. Hours later, Benjamin sat on a bench in Central Park, his expensive tuxedo exchanged for jeans and a simple shirt. His hands were shaking with nervousness as he watched Rosalind approach with a small figure beside her. Emma Parker had dark hair like her mother's butt with golden highlights that caught the late afternoon sun. Her eyes were unmistakably his own, bright blue, and she carried herself with a confidence that reminded him of his younger self. She wore a faded purple dress and sneakers with holes in the toes, but she radiated an inner light that took his breath away. Emma? Rosalind said gently, "This is Benjamin. He's the friend I told you about." Emma looked up at him with curious, intelligent eyes. "Hello," she said politely. "Mommy says you build important things." "I do," Benjamin managed to say around the lump in his throat. "Oh. But I think what you build might be even more important. Your mom told me you make amazing structures." Emma's face lit up with excitement. "I do. I'm building a bridge out of recycled bottles that can hold up to 50 pounds. Want to see the pictures?" As his daughter eagerly showed him photos on Rosalind's old phone, Benjamin felt his heart break and heal simultaneously. This brilliant, beautiful child was his flesh and blood, and he had missed 7 years of her life. But as Emma chattered about her projects and dreams, Benjamin made himself a promise. He would spend the rest of his life making up for those lost years. and he would do everything in his power to give his daughter and the woman he had never stopped loving the life they deserved. The question was whether they would let him try. 3 weeks had passed since Benjamin's dramatic exit from his own wedding, and the media firestorm showed no signs of dying down. Headlines screamed about the billionaire's wedding day. Betrayal in Manhattan's most eligible bachelor's shocking secret. But Benjamin barely noticed the tabloid coverage or the angry phone calls from investors and board members. His entire focus had shifted to two people who had transformed his carefully ordered world. Emma Parker was everything Benjamin had never known he wanted in a daughter. During their evening meetings in Central Park, she would eagerly show him her latest engineering projects built from discarded materials she found around her neighborhood. Her mind worked in ways that reminded him of himself at that age, but with an creativity and optimism that his privileged upbringing had never fostered. "Look, Benjamin," Emma said excitedly during one of their meetings, pulling a contraption made of bottle caps and rubber bands from her backpack. "I made a pulley system that can lift things 3 times heavier than the force you put in." Benjamin examined the device with genuine admiration. His 7-year-old daughter had intuitively grasped engineering principles that some of his MIT classmates had struggled with. "This is incredible, Emma. Have you thought about what you want to be when you grow up?" "I want to build houses for people who don't have them," Emma replied matter-of-factly. "Mommy and I used to not have a house, and it was really scary. I want to make sure no one else has to be scared like that." The comment hit Benjamin like a punch to the gut. While he had been building his empire, his own daughter had experienced homelessness. He glanced at Rosalind, who was sitting quietly on the park bench, watching their interaction with a mixture of joy and wariness. "That's a wonderful goal," Benjamin told Emma, his voice thick with emotion. "I'd like to help you learn how to do that if you want." Emma's face lit up. "Really? You would teach me?" "If your mom says it's okay," Benjamin replied, looking meaningfully at Rosalind. The past 3 weeks had been a delicate dance between Benjamin and Rosalind. She had agreed to let him spend time with Emma, but she maintained careful boundaries. Benjamin was Mommy's friend who happened to be very good at building things. Emma had no idea that the man who patiently explained engineering principles to her was her father. "We should head home," Rosalind said quietly. "Emma has school tomorrow, and I have an early shift at the restaurant." Benjamin watched them gather, their few belongings, his heart aching with the desire to do more, to be more in their lives. "Rosalind, can we talk?" "After Emma goes to bed." She hesitated, then nodded. "There's a coffee shop near our apartment. Mel's Diner on 42nd. I can meet. You there at 9? That evening, Benjamin sat in the worn vinyl booth of Mel's Diner, a far cry from the upscale restaurants where he usually conducted business. The coffee was weak, and the fluorescent lighting was harsh, but he had never felt more at home than he did waiting for Rosalind to arrive. She slipped into the booth across from him at exactly 9 o'clock, looking exhausted after her double shift. Her server's uniform was stained and wrinkled, and there were dark circles under her eyes. "You look tired," Benjamin said gently. "3 jobs will do that to you," Rosalind replied with a weak smile. "But it's worth it to see Emma so happy. She talks about you constantly. Your lessons are the highlight of her week." Benjamin leaned forward across the small table. "Rosalind, this can't continue like this. You're killing yourself working so hard, and Emma deserves better than secondhand clothes and daycare centers." She's happy," Rosalind said defensively. "We may not have much money, but Emma knows she's loved. That's more than a lot of wealthy children can say." "I know she's loved," Benjamin said quickly. "Anyone can see how devoted you are to her. But you shouldn't have to work yourself to death to provide basic necessities. Let me help. Let me set up a trust fund for Emma's education. Let me find you a better apartment." Rosalind shook her head firmly. "We've been through this, Benjamin. I won't take charity from you. Emma and I survived 8 years without your help. We can continue to survive. But why should you have to just survive?" Benjamin asked desperately. "I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. Letting me help isn't charity, it's responsibility. She's my daughter. She's my daughter," Rosalind corrected sharply. "She's been my daughter every day for 7 years while you were building your empire and planning weddings to other women." The words stung, but Benjamin knew he deserved them. "You're right," he said quietly. "I wasn't there, and I can never make up for that. But I'm here now, and I want to be part of her. Life part of both your lives." Rosalind studied his face in the harsh diner lighting. "What exactly are you saying, Benjamin?" "I'm saying I love you," he replied without hesitation. "I never stopped loving you, and seeing you again, meeting Emma, it's made me realize that nothing else in my life matters. The business, the money, the social status, it's all meaningless without you." "Benjamin," Rosalind began, but he continued, "I know you have every reason not to trust me. I know I hurt you by not fighting harder to find you 8 years ago. I know I've disrupted your life by walking back into it. But I also know that what we had was real, and it's still real. I see it in your eyes when you look at me." Rosalind's composure finally cracked, and tears began to stream down her cheeks. "Of course it's still real," she whispered. "Do you think I could forget the only man I've ever loved? Do you think I could stop hoping, even when I knew it was hopeless?" Benjamin reached across the table and took her hands. "Then why won't you let me help? Why won't you let me be part of this family?" "Because I'm terrified," Rosalind admitted, her voice breaking. "I'm terrified that you'll realize this isn't the life you want. You're used to luxury, to society events, to women like Catherine who understand your world. I'm a single mother who works in restaurants and lives in a studio apartment. What if you wake up one day and realize you've made a mistake? The only mistake I ever made was letting you go," Benjamin said firmly. "Rosalind, look at me. Look at how happy I've been these past 3 weeks, sitting in parks and diners, learning about bottle cap pulleys and hearing about Emma's dreams. This is more real, more meaningful than anything I've done in the past 8 years. Before Rosalind could respond, her phone buzzed with a text message. Her face went pale as she read it. "What's wrong?" Benjamin asked immediately. "It's Mrs. Chen, our neighbor," Rosalind said, her voice tight with panic. "Emma has a high fever. She's asking for me." They rushed back to Rosalind's apartment building, a run-down structure in Queens that Benjamin had never seen before. The narrow hallways smelled of cooking oil and mildew, and the elevator was broken. They climbed 4 flights of stairs too. "Reach apartment for C." Mrs. Chen, an elderly Chinese woman, met them at the door with worry written across her face. "She got sick very suddenly," she explained in accented English. "Very high fever, and she keeps asking for her mommy." Benjamin followed Rosalind into the tiny studio apartment, taking in the sparse furnishings and careful organization that made the small space livable. Emma lay on a narrow bed in the corner, her face flushed with fever, clutching a worn stuffed rabbit. "Mommy," Emma whispered when she saw Rosalind. "I don't feel good." "Hey." Rosalind knelt beside the bed, pressing her hand to Emma's forehead. "She's burning up," she said to Benjamin. "I need to take her to the emergency room." "I'll drive you," Benjamin said immediately. "I can't afford the emergency room," Rosalind replied, the words seeming to tear from her throat. "I'll take her to the clinic in the morning." Benjamin stared at her in shock. "Rosalind, she needs medical attention now. Don't worry about the cost." "I can't ask you to pay for Emma's medical bills," Rosalind said stubbornly, even as Emma's fever seemed to climb higher. "You're not asking," Benjamin said firmly. "I'm telling you that my daughter is sick, and I'm taking her to get the best. Medical care available?" The word daughter hung in the air between them. It was the first time Benjamin had claimed Emma so directly, and Rosalind's resistance finally crumbled. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." Benjamin gently lifted Emma in his arms, startled by how light she felt. Her fevered body pressed against his chest as he carried her down the 4 flights of stairs to his car, and he felt a fierce protectiveness surge through him. At the hospital, Benjamin's name and resources ensured that Emma received immediate attention from the best pediatric doctors available. As they waited for test results, Benjamin held Emma's small hand, while Rosalind paced nervously beside the hospital bed. "The test results show it's just a severe case of flu," Dr. Rodriguez explained when he returned with Emma's chart. "We'll keep her overnight for observation and for fluids, but she should be fine in a few days." As Emma finally fell into peaceful sleep with proper medication, Benjamin and Rosalind sat in the uncomfortable hospital chairs, emotionally drained. "Thank you," Rosalind said quietly. "I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't been there." "You don't have to thank me," Benjamin replied. She's my daughter. This is what fathers do. Rosalind looked at him with new understanding. You really mean it, don't you? About wanting to be part of our lives?